I'm going to make this quick and important video because I don't have much time for editing, so I'm going to speak straight from the heart. This is about the UNGA resolution prospect on uniting for peace to get a military intervention to stop the Gaza genocide. You're about to be conned by the UNGA, and I want to explain this because not everyone has the experience that I've had at the UNGA. I used to lobby for resolutions at the General Assembly and have spoken to diplomats in 95% of countries in the world and have been in the room when these things are happening. So I want to tell you how it works so you know the mechanics and why you're about to be conned. When a resolution happens, it's often led by one or two ministers from countries that call each other and say, we should table a resolution on this at the United Nations General Assembly. Okay, so you might have a country like South Africa or Colombia, some states from the Hague Group, or even the state of Palestine saying, let's get this resolution to happen. They call their friends and they build a group of states that are the core group, their immediate friends and allies. And they say, okay, what do we want this resolution to look like? And they start high, right? They say, okay, we want there to be a military intervention to stop the genocide. They will specify that it's a genocide, to break the siege, to deliver aid, to enforce international law for the evacuation of Israelis in compliance with the previous UNGA resolution, right? So they start high. Now, they only got about 15, 20 states max at this point. And then they realize in order to bring on a wider group of states, they need to start consulting. At some point, one of those is going to go to a state like Spain, all right? Spain has recognized the state of Palestine. Now, if Spain gets consulted and Spain says, well, you know, I don't know if the rest of the Europeans are going to support it at this level. So, you know, of course I agree with you, but I don't know if France is going to agree with you. So let me go talk to France. France comes along and says, well, I don't think the Americans are going to support this and we need to keep them on our side, right? Remember, these guys all hang out with each other. They go for restaurants. They go play golf with each other and they want to be friends. And so the French goes to the American guy and says, what do you think? And the American guy says, look, if I'm going to be honest, if any of you guys do this, Trump is going to bash you guys. There's going to be sanctions. Look, that's the reality. France goes back to Spain and says, I can't sign up to this. It's bad news, right? Spain goes back to the Hague Group and says, look, it's a no-goer. We're going to have to reduce the text, right? So it gets reduced and the wording gets lost and it becomes something like a stabilisation force at best, right? And that is actually the words used by France and Saudi Arabia. Stabilisation force. Stabilise what? Stabilise the apartheid? Stabilise the occupation? Stabilise the very conditions that brought around the fucking genocide? No, right? But the Hague Group are confused at this point because they're thinking, shit, we've only got 20 states. If we're going to get to 60 or 70, then we're going to start having play politics with these guys. Slowly by slowly, the whole thing is robbed of any meaning. There is only one thing that can stop that from happening, and that is when the alternative is worse, right? France will only sign up to something that is compromising for them if the alternative is worse, right? That is the only way to actually have political leverage over states like France and Spain and the UK. You need to scare them. You need to think they don't give a fuck about Palestinians. They never gave a shit about Palestinians. They're just minding their own backs and they want to avoid getting in trouble with their boss, and they have to be able to go back to their boss and say, look, we had to sign up for this because the alternative was worse, right? What is this alternative worse scenario? It's a video I made a message about a week ago about Abbas, right? If Abbas had any fucking balls, which I doubt at this point, if Abbas had a degree, a grain of any courage, he would write this letter saying, we call for the international community to enter Palestine by land, sea, or air and liberate Palestine. That is the worst case scenario for a state like the UK, for a state like the US. They do not want that to happen because it is giving legal permission for Ansar Allah, for Hezbollah, for an international brigade, a liberation army of people from all over the world coming into Palestine and liberating it, right? That is what the UK is scared of. Now, if going back to the UNGA now, if Spain went back to the UK now and said, actually, the UK, Abbas is pretty serious about this letter. He actually is the sovereign technically of the state of Palestine. He does actually have legal power to call in the international community, including non-state actors. So we don't want that scenario, right? That's when suddenly the UK is like, all right, shit, what do you guys want? right? So that is how UNGA resolutions work. Civil society, which is us, or activists, which is us, need to be the moral argument in the room. We need to be saying military intervention now, military intervention yesterday, let's send the international brigades, because we need to build confidence in the UNGA that this is going to happen, which is why I keep saying to people in the Protect Palestine community and others, you should not be calling for a UNGA resolution, actually, because what you're doing is giving credibility to a failing system. Right. And that's when the UK can sit comfortably and say, look, nothing outside the UNGA is ever going to happen because civil society is not even calling for it. It's not a serious threat. Right. Stop calling for a UNGA resolution. It's not helpful. Right. You should be calling for the establishment of an international military brigade to liberate Palestine in compliance with international law, because it is actually what is being ordered by the International Court of Justice and the UNGA, that Israelis should tear down the checkpoints, should tear down the apartheid wall, should evacuate from Gaza, from West Bank, from East Jerusalem by September 2025, next month, right? That is actually the law. We should be serious about that law and say, well, let's go and do it then. Let's actually go and smash down the fucking walls, right? That is the only way that states like France and the UK and China and others actually start giving a shit about actually stopping the genocide. You have to create leverage, right? So this is what I've been trying to teach people. This is what I've been trying to campaign on. This is why the Protect Palestine doesn't talk about the UN, because ultimately it's a shit fucking failing system. Been there. It doesn't fucking work. It's a beast that is designed to reduce. It's where good ideas go to die, right? So stop campaigning for a UNGA resolution. Campaign for the establishment of an international brigade, for a military force to enter now, because that is the only way, in fact, that states are actually going to budge at all. Because they don't care about Palestinians. They don't care about genocide. What they care about is something worse, which is us actually liberating Palestine and smashing the fascist Zionist Israeli regime. Here we can win. We can smash the apartheid wall. We can liberate Palestine and create the conditions, inshallah, for a one-state Palestine where there is no apartheid, where there is freedom for all the Palestinians, for the right of return for all the refugees. That can only happen if we smash the Zionist entity. We should be ready to do that now. Not talking about UNGA resolutions.